Welcome everyone. We hope you are tuning in to join us this morning here at 2230 Walton Way. It's a beautiful day. The sun is shining. First hint of summer is in the air. I think I'm already soaking wet, from drinking a cup of coffee. It has made me sweat, but we're glad that you've tuned in this morning. I hope you're not having too much trouble. Most everybody does better on YouTube rather than Facebook, if that's a helpful hint for you. And we're glad you're here. And we're glad to be here too on this sixth Sunday in Easter. That we're calling Rogation Sunday today. So we'll talk some more about that in a little bit. But first, just your motherly little reminders I have here, fresh from Whipple's, the mask for the well-dressed cleric. Okay, goes with your black shirt and collar. Okay. And so we certainly, your mothers here, your mother clergy, mother church, wants to exhort you to continue washing those hands, don't touch those faces, sanitize each day, and wear your mask when you go in the store or shop or get with people that you're not living with, okay? And a little distancing won't hurt either, but that seems to be a lost cause in my observations. But all that's good. We do commend to you, though, the research from I think it was Aaron Bramage. I don't know, is that his name? But that was forwarded to us by our diocese, and it was just a nice, easy to read thing on knowing your risk. Okay, we've opened back up. For good or ill, we have opened back up, and as you go about, you can tell, particularly in an area like ours, that people are acting like this is over. We're done. We're on the other side, and life is going back to normal. And we are going out as we need to and must, but we still must be vigilant and careful so that we manage and try to control the transmission of this virus. And of course, nobody wants to get sick, and nobody wants to make someone else sick. So please be careful and wear those masks out there. All right, today's Rogation Sunday. Rogation, you may, if I'm sure you all have read your weekly newsletter from the church, waiting for it every Friday. But it comes from the Latin word rogare, which means to ask, to beseech. And of course, in most northern European climes, this is seed time, planting time. Fields are being prepared and the seed is being planted for the fall crops, for the fall harvest. And so it became the custom at these times ahead of Ascension and I'll have Lynn tell you all about Ascension and what it means in just a minute. Heads up, Lynn. That's good. No pun intended. Heads up. He has ascended. Heads up. Okay? Goodbye. Rising up in the sky. Anyway, so it's the time the church would go about in processions, prayers, saying the great litany, putting on the purple vestments, actually assuming a penitential kind of tone, and going about and blessing the seed and blessing the fields as they also went about and what they call beat the bounds of the parish, went around the boundaries of the parish. So that's where Rogation comes from and what it's about. And so we're observing that this year, and one of the ways we do that is we have these little crosses, and I've been delivered to the children. There's a prayer there. There's some wildflower seeds. I just happen to have zinnias here. And these crosses were made by Molly Baldwin and Nina Creech. And they are made, if you're an Academy of Richmond graduate or alum, these will take on special meaning for you because they were made from old bookshelves, oak bookshelves that came out of the Academy building. So anyway, we sent this around. I hope you'll gather your family, go out in your garden, that little part of the big garden that has been given to you, entrusted to you to tend and care for and cultivate. Say this prayer and talk a little bit about how we all rely and depend on God, and then plant that cross in your yard as a reminder to you that we all have a calling, a role to play in nurturing God's creation, the garden, okay? And that can mean more than just our flowers or growing crops, but as we nurture one another and take care of living things, and all of our life, I suppose, could be enveloped in the notion of tending our gardens, okay? So we hope you'll have a great Rogation Day. You'll enjoy those. They are down here in the Lich Gate, in the little blue, not the little red, but the little blue wagon. This brings back, speaking of Mother's Day, I think one of the things my mother used to say was something about busting my little red wagon. Do y'all remember something like that? Abusive mother that I had. But anyway, we have crosses.
And thank you.
We have
Thank
the
you,
shepherd's
Molly
voice.
and
Yeah.
Nina.
Oh
Thank
man,
you.
Molly
Thank
and
you.
Nina. How much time?
Thank you.
They have a little machine over. I mean, just
Thank you.
that is like industry over there.
That's
But
a
they are
pleasure.
beautiful,
Yes,
and
they
they've
are.
all been. All the old finish has been taken off of them. If you want to put a little light stain on it or something, I'm sure it'll be lovely. We have crosses. We have masks. Masks are in down here at the Lich Gate, and the Shepherd's Voice. Our parish magazine is available. A lot of interesting articles in there for us to share for you. Okay. Well, what we want to talk. Oh, okay.
Just one announcement.
What announcement?
Linda Ware wants you to announce that her son's restaurant, Noble Jones, is opening Wednesday with outside seating.
Outside seating. Good
Wonderful.
old JD. All right, Noble Jones down on the river.
Yeah.
Right? That's good. And we can't imagine what it's been like for people like JD or others who are in the restaurant business. They've just been shut down, you know. And so go down if that's feel up to that, comfortable. Outside seating, I'm sure JD will do everything to make that safe and conform to the guidelines. So there's there. And don't forget, we have Golden and Mary at Cadwallader's have been preparing meals to go on some basis, and Lifesaver, Cash Cunningham and Chris Faulkner down at 5th and Finch, and
Butcher Shop.
New York Butcher Shop, Jack Deese. All of those folks are members of the parish, and hope you've been able to support them a little bit to help them keep a hand in the game. All right, very good. Okay, but what we wanted to talk about, I know it certainly occurred to you know early on when this started. Everybody went to the grocery store, and it shows you how stupid we are, doesn't it? All the toilet paper disappeared, but the meat counters were full, weren't they? But one of the things we began to see in that is we're told to shelter in place, to stay home, to stay safe, our dependency on other folks. I mean, so it was easy enough for us to stay home and either go out to the grocery store every week, 10 days, or even call in and have your groceries delivered. And those of us who've not lost our paychecks or our employment could stay home and prepare meals and eat and begin the long process of waiting this out. But then we began to hear about food shortages, you know, as the meat packing places became petri dishes for the virus, lots of hot spots, and concern that the meat supply would be interrupted. And one of the things that's come out of the pandemic, I think, is to put us in mind of that. So we say that little prayer, God is great, God is good. Let us thank Him for our food. By His hands we all are fed. And so we've certainly been put in mind of all the other hands along with God's that are involved in bringing something out of the ground to our plate, to my mouth, okay? Like honey buns. Where would we be without honey buns? Okay? Where would we be without honey
Andy
buns?
says much smaller.
Much smaller. Well, it could be, folks have said, what is God saying to us, And it could be God saying, y'all eat too much. You're too big. Okay? We got to do something about this. If you won't do something about it, I'm going to take that food off your table. Okay? It's a little reversal. We all grew up with, there's starving children in China, and you better clean your plate. So some of us have been taught to clean our plates and eat everything. That carried over to eating everything in sight. And now we're in mind of, well, maybe there won't be anything on your plate, Okay, so we certainly want to be mindful of that, of our dependence on God. So the most basic thing we have to do is to eat. And I don't ever think about where my next meal is coming from. Do you, Lynn? Now
I do not. No.
What do we eat? I mean, there are the dilemmas of what are we going to eat? Got to make a decision and prepare it and things like that.
It's available.
But you know it is available. It's available. And of course that frees people to do other things. So, well, let's just chat a little bit about that this morning, and y'all jump in here. How around? Let's just talk about the issue of eating first, with food or harvesting or growing, or all the folks involved who we now call essential workers. Because if they don't work, we don't eat. We don't eat, we're going to get unhappy, right? Or worse. There could really be. It's easy enough to see how in some period of time without food there will be civil unrest. Okay. All right. Well, what do you think about that, Lynn? While I eat some honey bun.
Well, it does renew an appreciation for myself, for those that work hard behind the scenes to keep my life comfortable, convenient, and I'm the one that grocery shops, and I've seen over this pandemic time that the minute there's a hint out there that pork's going to be scarce, or we're not going to have chicken, or people are lined up, including myself, I'm admitting it, you're lined up, and it's that fear that just, you've just got to get, what you've been accustomed to never even thinking about till 5 o'clock in the afternoon, when you think, well, what are we going to have for dinner? And so the notion of scarcity does produce fear, but just thinking about the people that are behind the scenes for food production is, like you've said, and I love your Shepherd's Fold that pointed to this, the unsung heroes, the people that really are the folks that keep the food production in our life easy, and we do take for granted those folks. I know I do, until, like I say, there's a shortage, or the news is telling us that there's a shortage. So I think best practices really would be for us to appreciate those people locally.
Yeah. I have started telling them thank you, but let's just walk that back. The young person, most likely, who's checking your groceries out, that's an entry-level job, and we can't get on without that person. Somebody's got to do that. The folks bag your groceries, the folks stock those shelves, the folks that run the grocery store. I mean, if we didn't have our grocery stores, what would we do? If they were closed down, where would we be? So just so that we can access the produce, what's been produced by so many people who work in the food industry, where would we be without those folks? I mean, we would be in trouble. Okay? All right. And so, I just say, I sound like your mother here. This is so... I'm usually, I'm an Episcopal priest. We have a hard time being judgmental. Don't have trouble being self-righteous, but have a hard time being judgmental. But, and so we don't really preach that way. That don't preach a lot of exhortation, but just don't go to the grocery store without a mask. I mean, I think that's just rude to the people who have to be there and work there. The mask is about protecting others, not about protecting yourself. So I think, personally, I think you show up in the grocery store without your mask on and you're saying to the people who have to work there, I don't really care about you. I don't want to wear a mask. I'm not afraid. I'm not sick. Whatever your thinking is, but what you're really saying to them, and as that article illustrated, that what I liked about it was the math of infection. I mean, it's no mystery. There's a formula, a calculus to how you get exposed to viral load and how much of it it takes in order to. And so you're safe to go in the grocery store for a trip to pick up your things if you know you're prudent and all that. You're probably, but those folks are in that place all day long, seeing everybody who comes in there. So their risk goes up because they're just exposed to more people, and they don't have the privilege of picking out who you're gonna be exposed to, like we do sitting here on Sunday morning, or knowing kind of how people are responding to this or whatever. Okay, well, it all started with the nurses and the respiratory and all the people who clean, everybody who works in the hospital. We were just undone by the fact that we don't have enough equipment for so many of them, or enough to get through a long period of time, and they've got to get up every day and decide, are they going to go down there and care, and in the big cities, those people were sick. I mean, the hospitals were filled with very sick people who were frightened and scared to death, and of course a lot of them have died. But those medical folks have to get up every day and decide, are they going to go down there and do that again? Of course, some of them have been exposed, and some of them have died from that. So we started with this wonder about where will we be without people who you don't even think about, who have all of a sudden become heroes because they're true to their calling, which is to alleviate suffering, heal the sick, comfort people. And so then that expanded, of course, to a lot of other folks that we've learned that without their industry, without their service, we can't get on with our lives, whatever we do. I bet all the moms out there, and probably some dads too, have a renewed appreciation for school teachers. So what do you think about that, Joe? I mean, aren't you glad you aren't homeschooling Trip this week? Or maybe you are.
He's
I've never
speechless.
seen it. He's speechless. Never. Mark it down, Andy.
I think he broke Bobby Banks and Westside and the Augusta College teachers. He brought them to their knees and trying to educate him over the
Amazing,
time.
any of them, just didn't give it up after teaching
A few of them did, I think.
Trip out. Okay.
Before I do that, let me get a shout out to Mama in Little Red Wagons, because when you said that, she'd say, Joe, you pull your own little red wagon. You don't worry about pulling anybody else's. And you can think about that from me. You can see the problem child that I was when I was coming along and everything.
If that little wagon had your troubles, your shortcomings, your
It'd be
sins
empty.
in it, I bet it was a caravan.
Oh yeah,
wagon.
I bet.
You weren't just pulling one little red wagon. I mean, there was like 40 of us. I bet you were a sweet child.
Well, before I say anything about the teachers, just briefly about them, even though you could talk all day about it, growing up on the farm in the 1940s, in the post-depression, recession days, everybody had to work. And I remember Grandma used to say, Joe, if you want to eat, you got to work, so go feed the child. And the interdependence of the agrarian folks in those days, but even before then, is quite profound. you're eating that honey bun, what's got sugar in it, it's got fat in it, and it's got flour in it. It's got probably a little opium or something in it as well. But,
Nothing nutritious, but it is
Granted,
tasty.
I mean, just think of those three ingredients, how those things come to be, and the number of people and the number of steps. In order to make that or cake or anything on the farm, you first had to have sugar. You couldn't buy any sugar because there wasn't any available. So you made your own sugar from sugar cane, you made it molasses or blackstrap or crystallized it. And all of those kind of things there. And people would come together when the sugar cane was ready to make sugar. And it would all come together. That's just one thing. And then when they sacrificed the hogs and everything to get fat, that kind of thing, they grew their own wheat and all that to make the flour. They grew everything. And so they were completely independent of that. We just think of what it took, how many people were involved in your enjoying that honey bun. And we take that for granted. We're a very consumer society. We take that for granted. And we do have a question
Well,
or a comment.
a couple.
Good.
Anita says, Lynn, your mom and daddy have their hands full.
Well, we all agree with that.
Right.
Ashley Pritchett says, they're not cut out to teach the new math. Apparently, there's a whole new way.
Meaning she and Mark are not cut out to teach
Yeah.
the new math. I wouldn't be cut out to teach the old math. Okay? As I've said on many occasions, Algebra 2, I thought that meant you take it twice. And so I did, okay? I actually had to pass Algebra 2 to graduate from high school. It was a close run thing, okay? I think I got a D+.
What was a plus for?
I don't know. It was a grace gift, okay? Yes.
Roger.
Can you talk a little bit about what EDS did for its students going in homeschool? Because that was downright impressive.
Yeah,
I
it
mean-
was. EDS was well prepared for that. Ned Murray and the division heads and the teachers. I mean, that whole team of people, and there you go. That's 80 plus people over there that make that little place go, plus all the parents who are involved. I mean, so one thing we see, the interdependence is, it really does take a village for any of us to do anything, doesn't it? To raise our children. I mean, we are all dependent, so dependent upon the efforts of others, in many ways, with a little nursery rhyme, little Jack Horner, right? Stuck in his thumb, pulled out a plum and said, what a good boy am I. And I mean, in some ways, and it's important to be autonomous, but you really are. I mean, even when you are managing your own life, your success depends on so many other people. I mean, police officers or the folks who pick up your trash cans every week and carry off your trash or all that. I mean, where would we be doing whatever we want to do or enjoy doing without so many people underneath us? So the idea of kind of the self-made person is, on one hand, that's very true and very appealing, but on the other hand, it's a myth, and worse still, it's arrogant and pride that somehow who I am and what I have all by my own efforts and industry, and that shows a kind of blindness that thinks, we're back to our friend John Donne, nobody's an island, right? I mean, all of us are in community, whether we want to be or not, and that communal life, which allows so many of us to specialize or take certain avenues, and is rest on the fact that other people are, doing the essential work that has to be done.
Robert, and being sensitive to all that is required for us to enjoy anything, whether it's this or whether it's this or anything like it, has made us aware that this is actually going on. We've forgotten it in our take it for granted consumerism, and just saying thank you as many times as you can, and whatever it takes. For instance, one of the people at this table here had surgery, and they made it an absolute point to find out the names and contact information of everybody that interacted with them while they were in the hospital for the surgery, the nurse, everybody they could, and wrote them a note.
Oh.
I mean, they did that, and I'm not going to tell you who it is, But Robert, I want to thank you for doing that.
Well, I
So
was
it's just
touched.
that, it's that little thing, just to say thank you for people, to people, and acknowledge the fact that we can't do without you.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Just back to just basic Christian manners is what it is. You just can't think, as your mama told you, Joe, to some success, you just can't think too highly of yourself, you know? And okay, we won't come back to EDS, but go ahead.
Well, you can't get out the home. I have another comment about homeschooling.
Yes.
Just a comment. Katie
Yes.
Tracy says she's a terrible homeschool teacher. And if they don't go back to school this fall, she'll cry.
She'll cry. I mean, I know we make light of it this morning, but that has been a real chore for a lot of families
It's
with
very difficult.
small children.
And it's very difficult
You know?
for teachers
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I mean,
To
the
do
teachers who've been
online
trying,
classrooms.
it takes twice as much
Yes.
time to try and
Right.
get with that child online, and then parents, that's not their training, and I'm sure it's put a lot of stress and strain on a lot of our families. And now we're going into the summer too, where there'll probably be fewer opportunities for children to get off or get away. You know, well, what is it too much of a good? What is it too much of a good thing? It's not a good thing.
That would be true.
That sounds right.
Yeah, like, so maybe too much family is not a good. Too much family time is not a good thing. All right, back to EDS. They did a fabulous job, and they that all stemmed. That conversation I think began 8 years ago with the what was the virus 8 years ago, Joe? SARS, one of those things, and they just began to kick around the idea: what would we do if we had to close school? You know, what if we had something that made us had to, or then that, of course, then expanded to what if we had a tornado or something, and how would we do that? So they've been talking about that at EDS for about 8 years before this moment even, and they'd even put into plans, and they'd pull them out every year and talk about it a little bit. So they had a good head start on how they were going to try and deliver, okay, and sustain the school's life. So I really commend them over there. All our teachers, they have done a terrific job. And in terms of trying to be idiot, be a community. And there's the spiritual life of the children is all that's tried to tend to that, as well as their social lives, as well as their academic life. And some children have really thrived. It was, we think, oh, you've got to get all these kids back to school. They're going to be sociopaths if they don't get back to school, and we'll fill up our prisons if they're out another year. And while that's very important, learning how to play together and get along is part of what we learn at school, and of course part of what we learn is how to take care of ourselves when people crush us. But some of those kids have actually thrived because for highly introverted children, or certainly a child that's being picked on or having trouble fitting in, getting out of that environment has been a blessing for them, and they've really been able to focus. Well done to EDS.
Yeah, EDS.
Has really delivered on that, and I
Well
hope,
done, teachers.
and those teachers, absolutely, yes.
Jody Baker.
Hey, Jody, my daughter in Goldsboro, North Carolina, watching in this
Pull
morning.
the plug, okay? Where's the censor?
By the way, she's a teacher.
Well, that's her comment is shout out to all the teachers who are teaching their classes full of students and also homeschooling their own children.
Oh my goodness.
So,
Shout
Yeah.
out for that for sure.
So when we go back to
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, thank you, Jody, everybody. When we go back, I mean, so here's one you think, well, economy. We like our economy, and we like having a good, strong economy, and all that sort. And yet, it won't run. It won't run without public schools. I mean, schools are in effect, really, first and foremost, for an economy like childcare. I mean, any family that's got small children and has either one or two both working has got to have some safe place where their children can be while they go to work in order to make a living. And so you just can't open up the economy if you can't have children put someplace, and ideally they've learned a little bit there too. Okay.
That's
Anything else?
That's all
That's
for now.
all. No comment. Well, let's talk. We want to hear from you a little bit about, how have you seen our dependence upon God? How has that been made, more concrete or tangible for you in the last 2 months? What have you seen either in your own life or out in the community that just shows of the reliance we have on each other just to have our lives, and then of course, then through all that to the great provider himself, how it is God who provides for us. So things like the weather, you can plant your crops and you get too much rain or not enough rain or whatever, and you can see, those are still, as much as agriculture has advanced as a science, we're still completely dependent. Can't make it rain. You can bring in water, you can irrigate, but of course use up all the water, you may not be able to bring it in, keep drilling down, take it out of the water table or whatever, but we really are just utterly dependent upon God when you get right down to any kind of bottom line or whatever. How have you seen that, Andy?
I've seen that thinking about Rogation Sunday, the concept of asking God for blessings. I was in Publix last night, and of course the toilet paper rack was empty. And as I turned to go out, a man came with a pallet, and guess what he began to put out? Charmin. God blessed me in that moment. I guarantee you, God blessed me. Now, that's facetious, but it's true. I think we're learning to be grateful for small things. The love of one another, the help of one another, the presence of Christ in our life, the presence of our Christian community at Good Shepherd and throughout the world. I think we've also learned to appreciate our families a little bit more, although the murder rate is on the rise. But we've learned
now that we're getting, it is.
It is.
I thought all crime was kind of crashing.
Not that one. But folks, I hope you've grown with your family. And let them teach you, let them love you. For many of you who are high-powered business people, that might be foreign because you're gone a lot. But revel in this time to be with your wife or your husband and your children, your grandchildren. Feed on that. They are God's gifts to you. They are your future. So please appreciate them and love them. And if I can mention one thing off the beam, folks, please don't forget Kenya. The food shortage there is severe. When I talk to Bishop Zach, and I look at us here, we think nothing of this. Nothing. We have this, we'll eat it. Or we'll not eat it. We'll throw some of it away. He has 30 people in his compound that he is trying to feed. I sent them our last bit of funds last week, and there is no more funding left to speak of in the Kenyan Fund. So please give us a hand with Kenya. Right now the basic need is food. So that relationship with Kenya makes me aware every day of the enormity of our blessings. Amen.
Amen. Yeah. I think we can scarcely comprehend what it would be like if there is no real supply. There is no solid chain. And you look at what happens in this country, the massive amounts of what can be produced, and then of course we go on down. Those trucks, those trucks are a real nuisance on the interstate, but everything in America moves by truck, and those truck drivers have to get out there and drive those trucks. Not to mention the people who grow the food and all that. It's just amazing how many people are involved in delivering something to the grocery store that you can put on your table and feed yourself. I suppose it's during World War II, I think there was rationing
Yes,
for a number
that
of
was good.
products.
And that's probably the last generation that remembers that.
Anything
Yeah.
like that.
Uh-huh.
So I'm a group of, who all survived the Depression for a starter, okay, where there was a lot of that, and maybe they'll call in. They're probably having trouble with their technology this morning, okay, and tell us what that was like when you had,
Ration
yeah,
books.
everybody had food stamps in those days, didn't they?
And ration books.
Yeah, ration books to get certain things because, and that was a part of essentially being a national community, wasn't it? I mean, this is in short supply. We're going to come up with a system. The government is going to come up with a system by which we try to fairly distribute this product, right? And of course, you had hoarding, you had people who cheat, people who are greedy, but sometimes, so that we can all survive something, you do need somebody to coordinate that effort, okay? And frequently, we turn to our government, whether it's local or state or whatever. I mean, that would be the first reason to have government in the first place, isn't it? To create the circumstances where we can all be safe and then get on with whatever we want to do with our lives. So, all right, what else? Anybody out there? What other stories do we have? Nobody has experienced God's provision in their life out there. I'm sure they have. All shy. It's a hard subject.
We can help those people that are local here,
Yeah,
shopping locally.
yeah,
We can help people that
Yeah.
farm locally. There are several places that are within 5 miles of here that local farmers will supply produce,
Yeah.
meat.
and I hope out of this, I mean, we'll learn. I hope we'll learn something out of all this. And it has been a global as well as a national crisis, and has disrupted our lives and everybody's life in a substantial. And I hope, and it has unmasked some places where we have holes and shortcomings in our society. And I hope folks will put their heads to, going forward actions to try to make those places better. I mean, there are 36.5 million Americans right now are unemployed. Now, a lot of them are receiving unemployment, okay? Not all, but a lot are. So again, where would we be if we didn't have that kind of a response for folks who've lost their job through no fault of their own, And a lot of these folks are in, food kitchen lines, and again, look at how people just step up, organize to get. I mean, I've seen stories of, but we can make so much, you have to dump it.
Yeah.
You have to dump it if you can't get it and then people seeing that and then putting up the money to get trucks or whatever and to move that from here to there, where people needed it. All right, Roger.
Talking about the gratitude towards frontline workers, how have we, as a church, or have you heard any stories about how we supported frontline workers, or do we know people we should be praying for? Is there something to do? And then there was a specific question about how specifically to help Bishop Zach. Like what can we do?
Well, I mean, in all honesty, Bishop Zach's 4,000 miles away on another
6,000.
continent, 6,000 miles away. So the best way to help Bishop Zach is to make a financial gift.
Right.
That we have ways to, and then he at least has the resources to try and procure what he needs for his folks there.
One of the things people don't realize, I've had people come to me and say, could we send school books? Could we send writing? No.
Yeah.
Most of it would be stolen or ransacked long before it got there.
Yeah.
If you follow Christian mission work, the best gift you can give these folks is money. Let them buy their supplies where they are. That is the bottom line. U.S. dollar will feed a Kenyan 1 week.
Wow.
1 week, U.S. dollar. in Kenya, not here, but in Kenya.
Okay, go ahead.
And Lynn, someone named Kristen talked a whole lot about locally grown
Yeah.
agriculture stuff. Can you talk more about what you know?
Well, hey, Kristen, that's my daughter.
Your daughter and her daughter got something going.
You all know, that's right. They're in cahoots. You all know Good Earth. That's one place that comes to mind. I have no connection with them other than I'm a customer.
Full
and-
disclosure, you're not an owner, a
Exactly,
stockholder,
no. But they are
receiving any remuneration from them.
what they do, locally owned, the locally grown, the produce, the animal products, the beef, everything they have is local, including their flowers. So just thinking about people that I know in the community that sell. Joe and I were talking about, and Andy remembers back days when we had a local produce store in Harrisburg that was wonderful, but I'm not sure that there's anything down this way that's going on that way.
Lanier's comes as
Lanier's.
close as anything.
Yeah.
Lanier's.
And in
yeah,
He
depressed,
grows his own beef, by the way.
yeah,
in
Lanier's.
depressed
local.
neighborhoods, you can't get, I mean, can't get grocery stores in depressed it's economics makes it hard sometimes. Okay, we got another one out here.
Ashley Pritchett just wants to know how is Christ Community doing the Saturday meal right now?
Yeah.
Clock Center does that now immediately when everyone had to shut down. I believe the Master's Table moved a lot of their serving to the Clock Center in conjunction with their facility. And I believe, I'm almost certain I have this right, that folks are able to get a meal every day of the week from the Clock Center. So they can handle the masses of people so much better than with Christ Community Church. It's a parish hall situation, so people would have been way too close together to be able to work that. So, but folks in Harrisburg are able to go to Clock Center and have a meal. I believe 7 days a week, I'm pretty sure.
Roger?
Joe, if masks work, why are businesses closed? And if they don't work, why are we asked to wear them so much?
Wow.
Well, what do you mean by work is the first
We have
thing.
3 minutes.
That's critical to it. Then the only mask that works, if you will, is the N95, and that will filter out 99% of the viruses, even though the COVID-19 virus is smaller than the filter size. Now the working part is when you have to bridge or violate the social distancing, then your chances of, if you have it asymptomatically or somebody else does, your chances of sharing that shedding of the virus becomes diminished. And if both people wear masks, then you have got it about as low as you can get. It doesn't really matter the type of material under those circumstances. You'd like to have N95s, you'd like to have surgical masks, and they're producing things now that are multi-layered and everything. And so, why are they're still closed and we can't get together? This is just one part of the mitigation. Remember, that cup may be covered up in viruses right now because I touched it and I may be shedding. So that's that part there. The whole thing is to diminish your chances and others' chances of an inoculum. And that's the number of viruses per unit that you would receive in your respiratory tract. Hope that helps.
Joe, I read an article on the internet before coming here this morning that if everybody wore masks, pretty much everybody, we would probably reduce the COVID rate by 80%. Do you think that's accurate?
Well, I don't know if that's a single. If you wear N95s, that might be the case. But I think it's the total package of mitigating strategies that we do. And remember, what we're trying to do with all of this is to keep the numbers down so we don't overwhelm our system. And let's wait a while. Everybody's working hard to get a treatment. to get the treatments, something that will treat the virus and kill it, treatments, whether it's ventilated, what all that is, we're still learning now, and people die, and it's trying to soften that. If we get on this side of the curve, people are still going to get the virus, and people are still going to die on the downside of the curve. It's because it's going down doesn't mean it's gone away. That's the problem with that. And Emily says, Joe, quit talking and shut up.
Okay. Well, we're about to the end of our time. I mean, I think a lot of us, and I mean, if you're in New York City, you hear the sirens going all day long, you're working in a hospital, this is real for you. In Augusta, Georgia, it's probably not real for you. You just don't think it's really going on. You can't see your breath, or, and so it's just very hard to perceive that there's actually a threat out there, but there is, so it's a little bit like Russian roulette. You really need to take it seriously, and
Right.
you're taking a chance every time. All right, next Sunday we'll be wrapping up here. Good Morning, Good Shepherd. Just 2 more Sundays, and then we'll shift to a Bible study, discipleship study. I think we've got an excellent little thing out there for the next 8 weeks. So order your books online. You get it from Amazon. Somebody will deliver it and all that sort of stuff. But the book is available, The Jesus Way. So we'll be working on that starting June 7th. But next Sunday, lessons and carols, Easter lessons and carols, and then on the 30th will be the day of Pentecost. We have a lot of celebration ahead of us. All right, well, thank you for being with us. We look forward to seeing you again someday soon. And so be careful, say your prayers, be grateful, say thank you to all these folks who make our common life work, and we'll see you in church at 10 o'clock.